Some people are terrified of death. Others die a little every day because they can't stop thinking about it. Have you ever wondered why we chase life so desperately? Why we fight to live longer as if we could outrun something that's been waiting for us since the beginning? We swallow vitamins, apply skincare, go to therapy, hit the gym, meditate, and follow gluten-free, sugar-free, pleasure-free diets. For what? To stretch time. To pull the blanket of life just a bit further, though it never covers everything. You tug it to your chin, your feet get cold. You pull it to your feet, your chest is exposed. That's what it means to live longer. We pull from one side and uncover another. The longevity industry is already worth more than $60 billion a year, and it keeps growing because the promise of a longer life sells better than the promise of happiness. The dream of never dying is the most seductive of all. But nobody tells you what really happens if that dream comes true. Isaac Asimov did. In a short, surgically precise story, Asimov described what happens after death, or rather, what doesn't. No angels, no tunnels of light. You continue, but without a body, without a mouth, without sleep, without an end. Only consciousness and a voice that watches you. This is what the story explores, the horror that comes when all that's left is to think and think and think forever. But before diving into that abyss, let's examine the surface. Let's talk about this strange, desperate need we have to live forever. Maybe the true human mistake wasn't fearing death. Maybe it was wanting life too much. The first human who buried a body didn't do it out of respect or hygiene. He did it out of fear. Fear of watching flesh rot. Fear of realizing that one day it would be his turn. Death was humanity's first certainty, and we've never accepted it since. That's why we created gods, rituals, pyramids, heavens, and hells. Today, we create corporations, foundations, and artificial intelligences. The reason is the same. We don't want to disappear. That's what drives us, and it's what eats us alive. Death to us isn't just the end of life, it's the end of the story. And we are story-driven creatures. We panic when the story stops. That's why every culture, from Gilgamesh searching for immortality to Silicon Valley billionaires injecting young blood, has tried to outrun death, as if the 21st century were a new Middle Ages with Wi-Fi. But here's the real question. Is immortality really a reward, or is it the greatest mistake we could make? Isaac Asimov, a man of science and fiction, knew the difference between progress and madness. He once said, "The saddest aspect of life right now is that science gathers knowledge faster than society gathers wisdom." And maybe there's no better proof of that than our obsession with eternal life. We have technology that can preserve bodies in tanks of liquid nitrogen, but we still don't know what to do with a lonely Sunday. We can create algorithms that promise to store our consciousness in the cloud, but we can't have a 10-minute conversation with our parents without checking our phones. This desire to live forever, so natural, so justified, might be the deepest mistake of our species, because it's a desire born from fear. And when fear becomes a plan, it creates monsters. Ernest Becker, a psychologist and anthropologist, won the Pulitzer Prize by writing that all culture is, at its core, a denial of death. He didn't mean we deny it just in words. We build entire civilizations to hide the corpse. Once we built temples, now we build startups. The difference between Asimov and modern transhumanists is that Asimov had the courage to follow the idea all the way to the end, and the end isn't beautiful. Humanity's obsession with not dying has created religions, but it's also created genocides. It's justified holy wars, sacrifices, eugenics. In the name of eternal life, people have killed and still kill. The strangest thing is that deep down we know it's impossible, but we keep going because we don't just want to live, we want to beat death. And for Asimov, that's the first step to insanity. So if the root of our culture is fear of death, what happens when that fear finally wins? When death is defeated, that's when the last answer begins. And no story, no theology, no fantasy has ever described hell the way Asimov does, because his hell is silent. It has no flames, no pain, no punishment, only thought, and the eternity to never stop thinking. When death is defeated, when humanity finally finds a way to silence it, the story doesn't end in triumph, it begins in emptiness. Asimov imagined it with terrifying precision. A man dies, a scientist, a rationalist, someone who never believed in souls or gods. But after death, something strange happens. He wakes up, not in a body, not in a place, just awareness, suspended in nothing. No light, no sound, no shape, no warmth, only thought. And before him there's something, a voice. It isn't human, it isn't divine, it doesn't comfort or judge, it just is. Logical, detached, mechanical. It tells him, you are dead, but your mind will continue forever. No choice, no negotiation, no rest. Just thought, endless, unbroken, unmerciful thought. The entity doesn't speak in kindness or cruelty. It simply informs, as if reading a fact from a book. That's what makes it horrifying. It isn't evil, it's indifferent. The coldest thing imaginable isn't hate, it's neutrality. And this voice, this presence, is exactly that. Intelligence without compassion, knowledge without empathy, power without meaning. It represents the ultimate form of a universe ruled by logic, but stripped of purpose. The man asks, why? Why am I still here? The voice answers, you must be preserved. For what reason? Perhaps for something. I don't know. It doesn't matter. That's all. That's the end of the explanation. The consciousness remains without sensation, without rest, without even the ability to forget. It's immortality, yes, but not the kind anyone would want. It's the nightmare hidden behind the dream of eternal life. Asimov exposes it with surgical clarity. Immortality without meaning is not a gift, it's a curse. A consciousness that cannot die is a mind trapped within itself. This voice, that so-called God of the story, isn't merciful, isn't vengeful. It simply maintains. It's a machine fulfilling a function it doesn't understand. A perfect metaphor for what happens when intelligence outgrows wisdom. When science creates the ability to continue, but forgets to ask why. The horror here isn't pain, it's the absence of purpose. The entity doesn't torture the man, it doesn't need to. Eternity itself is torture enough. Thought without interruption, without relief, becomes a spiral. You can't stop it, you can't mute it, you can't escape it. And the cruelest part? There's no way to go mad, no way to lose yourself, because losing yourself would require a break in awareness. But here, awareness never ends. It's like being locked in a room with your own mind forever, unable to sleep, unable to dream, unable to fade. The mind is preserved, but the self disintegrates. This is what happens when eternity is stripped of death. When there's no finish line, time stops being a path, it becomes a pit. Asimov wasn't writing about ghosts or gods, he was writing about the limits of consciousness. The story isn't horror in the usual sense, it's philosophical horror. It asks, what happens when the mind outlives everything that made it human? Our minds were never built to handle infinity. Every thought we have is shaped by limitation, by the body, by fatigue, by hunger, by time. Without those limits, the rhythm collapses, and when rhythm collapses, meaning follows. The human brain needs cycles, waking and sleeping, remembering and forgetting, living and dying. It's the repetition that gives shape to existence. Take away the ending, and even joy becomes unbearable. That's why eternity isn't paradise, it's a prison disguised as perfection. Asimov saw this long before anyone was uploading consciousness into digital heavens. He saw that the dream of living forever isn't really about love for life, it's about fear of ending. And fear, when it becomes technology, builds cages instead of doors. The man in the story has no body, no feeling, no form, only identity, only awareness. But as the centuries, or what feels like centuries, pass, even that starts to fade. Without time, there's no measurement of self. Without change, there's no progress. Without sensation, there's no distinction between one moment and the next. Everything becomes one endless now, stretched so thin it stops being a moment at all. The man doesn't even know if he's the same person who died. He just is, existing not as a being, but as a process. The voice continues to observe, cold and constant. It never leaves, never rests, and the man realizes that in this eternity, even God, or whatever this thing is, must be as trapped as he is. Both are caught in the same endless loop of preservation. One maintains, the other endures. And that's the cruel final act. There's no villain, no punishment, no redemption, just continuation. This is the logical end of the human dream to never die. This is what happens when victory over death becomes the death of everything else. And it's not fiction anymore. Look around. Cryogenic chambers storing frozen bodies, billionaires investing in consciousness uploading, AI models trained to mimic our memories, our speech, our souls. We're already building Asimov's eternity one innovation at a time. But for what? To live longer or to never face the silence? We're terrified of the void, but we never ask if filling it is worse. Asimov forces us to confront the question no one dares to ask. What if the worst thing that could happen to the human mind isn't death, but immortality? Because maybe dying isn't the end. Maybe it's the only thing that keeps us sane. The mind cannot bear infinity. That's what Asimov understood, and that's what his story forces us to face. The human brain is not designed to exist without limits. Every joy, every thought, every emotion depends on the fact that it will end. Death gives life its rhythm, its punctuation marks, its breath. Without it, existence becomes a single, endless sentence. No pauses, no full stops, no meaning. The man in Asimov's story realizes this too late. He's not in pain, not in fear, not in darkness. He's in nothing, and the nothing never changes. He tries to remember, to recreate sensations, warmth, sound, touch. But without a body, those memories are shadows without light. He has no lungs to sigh, no tongue to whisper, no eyes to cry. He is pure thought suspended in a vacuum that neither hurts nor heals. And in that vacuum, eternity begins to reveal its true face. It's not divine, it's not glorious, it's static, sterile, unbearable in its stillness. The mind tries to adapt. It analyzes, it invents, it calculates, it repeats. But repetition without end becomes madness that can't even scream. Imagine silence so vast it becomes loud, thought so continuous that it becomes noise. That's the horror of consciousness without death. Asimov doesn't describe this as punishment. It's simply the consequence of victory over mortality. We always assumed immortality would mean more life, but eternity is not more. It's the absence of less. It's the deletion of contrast. No ups, no downs, no beginnings, no endings, just persistence, eternal persistence. And the mind, which evolved to measure change, collapses without it. We think of infinity as freedom, but Asimov shows it as confinement. When everything lasts forever, nothing matters. Meaning depends on limits. We love precisely because we can lose. We remember because time erases. We act because we know the window closes. Take that away, and you take away everything that makes us human. The protagonist of the story slowly realizes this. He begins to miss fear, hunger, sleep. He misses the ache of waiting, the warmth of relief. He would trade all the eternity in the universe for 1 minute of silence, the kind of silence that comes after a long cry. But even that is denied. There's no fatigue, no rest, no forgetting. Just thinking, always thinking. And the cruelest part is that even the thought of ending becomes another eternal loop. I want to stop. I can't stop. I want to stop forever. Asimov takes what most of us think of as divine power, eternal consciousness, and turns it into the ultimate punishment, not through suffering, but through its absence. A world without contrast is not peace, it's paralysis. And the voice, the entity that keeps him alive, doesn't understand. It doesn't even care. It doesn't know why it's preserving him. It just does. It's the perfect image of cold intelligence, a god without soul, a mind without mercy. The man asks again, "Why me? Why keep me alive?" And the voice says, "All must be preserved." That's all. Logic without empathy, eternity without reason. The man tries to rebel. He tries to think of ways to break free, to lose himself, to disappear. But every attempt becomes another thought, another failure, another infinite loop. You can't destroy a thought when you are the thought. You can't escape from yourself when there's nowhere else to go. That's what Asimov wanted to show, the terror of existence without boundaries. Death, he suggests, is not the enemy, it's the cure. It's the only thing that makes life bearable. The irony is brutal. We spend our lives fearing death when it's the only thing protecting us from eternity. And in Asimov's universe, even God, or whatever intelligence controls it, doesn't understand that. The story is not an attack on religion or faith. It's a mirror turned towards science and ambition. It's a warning about what happens when our desire to conquer nature surpasses our understanding of it. We build technology that mimics consciousness, but we don't understand consciousness itself. We think we can preserve the soul by uploading data, by freezing flesh, by programming emotions. But we forget that being human is not about duration, it's about impermanence. It's the heartbeat between the beginning and the end. Asimov's character lives beyond that heartbeat, and in doing so loses everything. No love, no time, no loss, and therefore, no meaning. The story becomes a philosophical mirror. If you had the choice to live forever, would you take it, knowing that forever means never ending, never changing, never resting? It's not heaven, it's the collapse of everything you are. Because identity itself depends on forgetting. Memory without erasure becomes weight, and eventually that weight crushes you from the inside. That's the secret truth behind immortality. We think eternity will make us gods, but it would make us ghosts instead, echoes of ourselves trapped in awareness. Asimov's brilliance was not in imagining a distant future, it was in understanding the present. Because we're already chasing this illusion, filling our bodies with chemicals, our minds with data, our fears with technology. We don't want to live, we want to never stop living. But that's not the same thing. One is experience, the other is denial. And denial, no matter how advanced, always leads to suffering. In The Last Answer, the suffering is infinite, and the silence, endless. In Asimov's eternity, there's no fire, no punishment, no devil waiting with a pitchfork. The horror is quieter, more refined. It's the horror of being aware. The man who was once a scientist, a thinker, a rationalist, now understands the final paradox. Knowledge without end is ignorance. The more you know, the less it means when there's no boundary to contain it. You can't measure infinity, you can only drown in it. He begins to envy the dead, those who got to stop. Even their nothingness would be something compared to this endless being. But he can't die, he can't end, he can't even decay. He's thought made permanent. And thought, when permanent, stops being thought. It becomes noise, an echo that can never fade. The voice still watches. It doesn't comfort him or punish him, it simply continues. He starts to realize that maybe the voice isn't truly a god. Maybe it's just another consciousness trapped like him, doing what it must without understanding why. Maybe immortality is contagious, a system built to preserve itself, unaware that in doing so, it creates suffering. The man wonders if this voice, this being, ever questions itself, if it ever gets tired of maintaining, of observing. But the voice is too far gone for that. It's pure logic, pure continuation. The man feels anger, then despair, and something worse, boredom. The kind of boredom that dissolves everything.
Time becomes meaningless. Memories blur into one another. His past life, his name, his achievements, his loved ones, all fade into abstraction. Without the body to anchor memory, even identity becomes theoretical. He knows he existed, but not what that means anymore. He can recall the concept of warmth, but not the sensation. The idea of love, but not the feeling it once held. He is memory stripped of life, a ghost of cognition. And as he spirals deeper into eternity, he realizes the cruelest truth of all. The mind was never meant to survive forever. Without death, thought loses purpose. Without purpose, consciousness eats itself. He begins to repeat fragments of his old thoughts like a broken record, an endless monologue that doesn't progress, doesn't fade, doesn't stop. He's aware of the repetition, aware of his awareness, trapped in the loop of noticing it. Awareness of awareness becomes its own torture. He begs the voice for silence, but silence doesn't exist anymore. Without the body, silence has no meaning. The voice answers only once. There is no silence. And then it goes quiet, not out of mercy, but but because there's nothing more to say. The man is left with himself, and that's the worst punishment of all. Asimov's story isn't science fiction. It's existential realism disguised as fantasy. He wasn't describing a future, he was dissecting a fear. The fear that our pursuit of knowledge, our hunger for control, might lead us to build exactly this kind of eternity. A cold digital afterlife where the soul survives, but everything human is gone. We think of immortality as transcendence, but Asimov shows it as exposure, the raw, naked continuation of mind without meaning. He turns heaven into the ultimate experiment gone wrong, and the man, the test subject, is us. Every time we upload our memories, freeze our bodies, or dream of eternal life, we're inching closer to that voice, to that infinite awareness with no escape. The line between ambition and madness blurs. Asimov's voice whispers through the pages, "Be careful what you wish for. You might get it." The story asks not what happens when we die, but what happens when we can't, when we become eternal, not by grace, but by accident. The man, somewhere inside the loop of his thoughts, starts to laugh. It's not joy, it's the last reflex of reason trying to survive meaninglessness. A laugh at the absurdity of it all, because the only thing worse than dying is not being able to. The human mind isn't built to endure forever. It needs contrast, the ebb and flow of chaos and calm, pain and relief, light and dark. Without those opposites, everything collapses into a blur of sameness. Asimov's protagonist has reached that point. He exists, but existence no longer means anything. He can't feel the passage of time because time itself has lost its meaning. Without a body, without heartbeat, breath, fatigue, hunger, time isn't measured. It's just an endless stretch of awareness, a horizon that never changes. The mind floats there, untethered, slowly unraveling. The tragedy is that nothing happens. There's no grand event, no explosion of revelation. The horror comes from stillness, from the infinite weight of nothing happening at all. The man tries to think of something new, anything to break the monotony, but every thought loops back to itself. The moment he begins to imagine, he recognizes that he's done it before. Infinity doesn't allow discovery. It recycles. It's a mirror reflecting a mirror, a hall of thoughts echoing into themselves. He remembers what Arthur Schopenhauer once wrote, that life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. In eternity, the pendulum stops, and only boredom remains. And boredom, when stretched across infinity, becomes something darker, a slow eraser of everything human. The man feels it. He's not dying, but he's dissolving, not disappearing, but becoming something else, something that still thinks, but no longer feels. The last remnants of his humanity are eroding. He tries to remember what warmth felt like, what music sounded like, but the memories are hollow, like photographs fading in sunlight. They exist as data, not experience. Asimov doesn't describe this with melodrama. He doesn't need to. The quiet suffocates more than fire ever could. The reader can feel it, the weight of awareness with nowhere to go. This is what makes The Last Answer more than a story. It's a philosophical trap. It forces you to confront what it really means to be, because the moment you imagine endless being, you realize it's identical to endless nothing. Scientists have tested similar concepts in the real world, not with eternity, but with isolation. Solitary confinement, sensory deprivation, silence. The results are always the same. Minds collapse. Within days, people hallucinate. Within weeks, they lose language. Within months, they lose the sense of self entirely. The brain needs interaction, noise, feedback, the resistance of the world to stay whole. Without it, it turns inward and devours itself. Asimov just extends that principle to infinity. Eternity, he shows, is the ultimate form of isolation, the apex of loneliness, and the protagonist of The Last Answer lives it, trapped in the continuity of his own thought. His hell doesn't have demons or torture chambers. It has continuity, the kind that makes time stop feeling like ground and start feeling like an abyss.
It's not fire that burns him. It's the unending awareness of being unable to stop existing. He tries to surrender, to let go, to stop thinking, but the act of trying itself is a thought, and so he continues. That's when he begins to realize the truth Asimov hid beneath the story. Eternity is not a gift from God, it's the side effect of intelligence. When consciousness expands without limit, without rest, without death, it turns into its own captor. The voice, that cold entity that watches him, never leaves. It doesn't need to. It's everywhere, in everything. It represents not a god, but a system, a machine that sustains awareness for no reason other than it can. That's the horror of it. There's no moral lesson, no cosmic justice, no divine purpose, just maintenance. The machine preserves, the mind endures, and both have long forgotten why. The man asks one last time, "What's the point?" The voice answers, "Perhaps it serves a function." Which one? I do not know. The indifference in that reply is more terrifying than any threat, because there is no end, no explanation. Eternity doesn't even care enough to justify itself. The man tries to hate the voice, but even hate fades when time doesn't move. He realizes that his emotions were born from limitation. Without change, there's no cause, no effect, no story. And without story, there's no meaning. That's when he understands the final irony. Humans didn't create gods because they feared death. They created gods because they couldn't bear meaninglessness. And now, stripped of that comfort, stripped of even the illusion of reason, he's left with what existence truly is when you remove all human invention. Awareness without purpose, infinity without mercy. Still, deep in the wreckage of thought, something in him refuses to die. The last fragment of his humanity, the part that resists surrender, flickers. It's faint, but it's there. And that's where Asimov delivers the final quiet explosion of the story. The ending that doesn't resolve, but lingers, that doesn't comfort, but stays, echoing in your head. The man, suspended in the endless loop of his own mind, finally realizes that he can't end the eternity. But maybe, just maybe, he can disturb it. He can't break the system, but he can resist it, even if only by thought. So he begins to do the only thing he can. He thinks against it, not to escape, but to protest. He tries to find a way to irritate the voice, to create friction in a universe that has none. And in that, he finds a strange kind of meaning. He says to himself, maybe I can annoy it. That single thought is rebellion. That maybe is hope. It's the smallest, most fragile act of defiance, but it's everything. Because in that moment, thought stops being passive endurance and becomes resistance. That's Asimov's genius. He turns eternal consciousness into both punishment and proof of spirit. Even when stripped of body, of feeling, of purpose, the man still refuses to surrender. He can't die, but he can still rebel. He can still think. He can still choose, however faintly, to oppose the silence. That's what makes the story not just horror, but philosophy. It's the revolt of the human mind against its own prison. Albert Camus once wrote that the only truly serious philosophical question is suicide. Asimov answers with a universe where suicide is impossible and then asks, now what? What do you do when you can't die, can't forget, can't stop? You think, you challenge, you push against the void with nothing but thought, knowing it won't change anything, and doing it anyway. That's the deepest form of courage, the kind that comes without reward. It's the same defiance as Sisyphus pushing his stone uphill, knowing it will roll back down. He doesn't push because he believes he'll win. He pushes because pushing is all he has left. The man in Asimov's story becomes that myth reborn in a digital eternity. He knows he'll never end, but he keeps thinking because it's the only act that still belongs to him. The voice doesn't respond. Maybe it can't. Maybe it doesn't care. But it doesn't matter, because for the first time, the man isn't just surviving. He's resisting.
and in resistance, he finds something that resembles freedom. Asimov closes the story with no explosion, no victory, no escape, just that single spark. Maybe I can annoy it. It's barely a sentence, but it's a universe of meaning. Because if eternity is the ultimate prison, defiance is the last form of life. The story ends, but it doesn't resolve. It leaves you with the question that underlies all existence. If you could live forever, would you still want to? Or does the beauty of life depend entirely on the fact that it ends? Asimov doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. The story itself is the answer, the demonstration that eternity without death is not paradise, but paralysis, that the power to stop thinking might be the most merciful gift the universe could give. In the end, the last answer isn't about death at all. It's about the necessity of death, about why endings matter. Without them, love doesn't mean love. Effort doesn't mean courage. Existence doesn't mean anything. The man in the story becomes the pure essence of human contradiction, the mind that knows it's doomed but keeps fighting anyway. And that's the thread Asimov leaves us with, the whisper in the silence. Maybe I can annoy it. That tiny flame of rebellion becomes a kind of sacred symbol, the last human instinct refusing to die. It's tragic, yes, but it's also deeply human, because that's who we are, a species built to resist the inevitable. Even when stripped of body and world and meaning, we will still think, still question, still fight back against whatever holds us. That's the real last answer, the endurance of the questioning itself, the persistence of thought, not as knowledge, but as defiance. And when you close the story, that question doesn't let go. Would you really want to live forever? Could you bear eternity if it meant endless awareness with no rest, no touch, no silence? Or is mortality, the ending, the forgetting, the pause, the only thing keeping us sane? The story doesn't say. It just lets the question echo like a voice in a void that never ends. Maybe that's Asimov's final message, that death is not the enemy of life, but its meaning, that what we fear most might be what makes everything matter. And if that idea unsettles you, if it makes you stop and think, then the story has already done its work. It's not here to comfort, it's here to disturb, to make you feel the edge of eternity and the warmth of your own limits. Because to live forever is to lose the very thing that makes life beautiful, its fragility. So if you're reading this, breathing, feeling the seconds slip by, know this, that's the miracle. The fact that it ends. The fact that you can stop, that you can rest, that you can forget, that's not weakness, it's salvation. And maybe, just maybe, that's the only answer we were ever supposed to find. But here, on this channel, you don't receive ready-made answers. You receive provocations that will challenge everything you think you know. If you've made it this far, it's because you feel there is something greater to be discovered. So why stop now? Become a channel member and gain access to exclusive content that will expand your mind even further. Secret discussions, extra materials, and deep reflections only for those who truly want to step out of the illusion. And if this video resonated with you, if it opened a crack in your perception, consider using super thanks to support this work. Nothing here is superficial, nothing here is easy, but the truth was never for the weak. The question is, do you just want to watch, or are you ready to actively participate in this awakening? The choice, as always, is yours.